Hello, my name is Martha Thorne, and I'm Director of Institutional Relations and Curation at the Gallery Institute. Welcome to Gallery Talks. It's a space where we expand the dialogue with leading voices in architecture, design, and contemporary art. And it's a time to reflect on ideas and processes and stories that shape our environment and the living archive of gallery. Here, every conversation begins with a project, a work, an idea, a building, and it has become part of our journey. Gallery Talks, therefore, is a record and an expansion, a way to continue the narratives we've built through our films, documentaries, and original productions. Today, we're recording Gallery Talks at the Media Center studios of PCI, Creative Science Park in Aveiro, Portugal. It's a space for innovation and cutting edge technology, and it allows us to create interactive content and explore new ways of connecting art, architecture, and contemporary thought. And this is a Siza special. Of course, you know that great architect Álvaro Siza, and we're celebrating the world premiere of the documentary Siza, which will soon debut on streaming on our own platform, Gallery Originals. Today, we welcome two very distinguished guests, Cláudia Antunes, architect, BIM specialist, president of Women in BIM, which is an international organization, and a board member of the National Council of the Professional Association of Architects here in Portugal. Welcome, Claudia. Thank you. And we also welcome another expert, Nuno Ladeiro, architect. You've been a professor many years. You just informed me are on sabbatical for a while, but a designer, a researcher, and the founder and practicing architect in your own office. Today, we'll talk about different things: the evolution of Portuguese architecture, the creative process, technology, the changing profession, and of course, we'll talk about the legacy and influence of Álvaro Siza, our great master. So, tell me, Claudia, um, Álvaro Siza has said the architect learns with time. And the profession changes, but the discipline the discipline stays the same. What do you see as changing and staying the same in the discipline, and how do you react to a phrase like that?
Thank you, Martha. It is a great honor to be here and to participate in this conversation. Also has I can call it an outsider, but from someone who represents, I guess, this young generation of architects that look at this legacy, but are also preparing the future of the profession. So thank you very much for having me. So when I look to our profession, and when we talk about all these transformations that we see, it is really important to look at architects like Álvaro Siza and to know his work so that we can apply to these new processes and new ways of doing, but remaining the essence of architecture. Regarding the places, the people, and what is the real mission that we as architects have, building these places and serve society with our work. So we have this look through the future and using new ways of doing, but never forgetting this essence of our work.
Great. Nuno, you mentioned that you met Álvaro Siza and he seemed to give you certain lessons, maybe not directly, but through your experience with him. Could you tell us a little bit about that and maybe the lessons you learned that dovetails with what Claudia has said about the essence of architecture.
Yes, thank you for being here. It's a great opportunity, and in fact, I had this big opportunity to meet Álvaro Siza personally so many years ago. It was about 15 years ago, and at the time it was really inspiring because I was dealing with design, industrial design, and I invite him to design some carpets and some objects to edit outside in Portugal, some of them, and others outside in Belgium and other countries. And it was really an experience because the way he thinks, um, not only architectural, but everything that is a part of the architectural. I'm talking about objects because architectural doesn't live without objects. I'm not talking only about furniture, but maybe some details that are a part of it. For him, is so important to design a share or a piece of a part of the architectural project as it is for a building. And it was a really experience and inspiring because at the time he was working in Chiado and in Lisbon, and I was picking him and every Wednesday, and it was amazing because it was really a moment that I learned a lot because I was traveling from Chiado to the airport, and we were in the traffic of Lisbon, sometimes more than an hour, and he was always talking to me about things, details, and I really understood at the time that how important is not only thinking about architecture like construction, but how to observe each detail of architecture. And when we design a space, we need to design what is inside this space. And at the time, he was designing for me a carpet and talking about the same with the same confidence and the same enthusiasm about details of a carpets like it when maybe he was talking about a big building or a museum or another construction. So what I learned was how important is our profession is much more than creating houses or places to live, is to create all the ambience, everything that concerns to live and to have comfort and a relation with the space that surrounds us.
Claudia, tell me a little bit more. You talked about the essence of architecture and creating places for people. Tell me a little bit more about how you see that, and is there a direct connection with Álvaro Siza and his architecture? Of course, we know that things are changing, tools are changing, but what connection can you make with this mission that you spoke of and the work of Álvaro Siza?
Yes, and I would also like to share something that when I was finishing my school years as an architect student, I did my master's thesis about Álvaro Siza and also comparing a little bit with Bruno Taut as an architect because I talked about these agents of social that they had an impact on society and they were agents to this transformation. And one thing that I explored was this idea that architects and Alvar was an example, and it is that designs with people, not for people. That's the difference, I guess. And when you talk about essence in our work, we are talking about this. We are talking about collaborative and doing something with the people and related with that specific place. It's not the same designing something here in Portugal at a specific context because it has a soul, as we call it, and it's not the same doing it on the other side of the world. We have to design it for that place, and then he is a master on that.
Yeah. It's very interesting to me because I understand the context, which is geographic or climatic or historical. But I think that nowadays a lot of people say design with people as if it were giving a test to the neighbors to find out what they want. Um, I think if I recall Álvaro Siza, he often saw himself as maybe a resident or an inhabitant of a new building and thought of the other people. What about today? How do you design with people? What do you think are some of the ways of doing that?
I think also technology is helping with that because when we talk about a new process of doing things, we talk about getting everyone together at an early stage of the process, collaborating. So it enhances this collaboration, or at least in theory, this is what we all want. We want uh, um, the manufacturers, the constructor, the architect, the engineers, everyone involved in creating something for the future. So I guess the technology enhances this collaborative
Absolutely.
work.
I'll come back. I have more questions, but I want to ask Nuno. I know you have a small office, but also there are some projects that need a big team. So how do you approach that collaborative effort? And how do you include collaboration in your work?
Yes, I like to have a small mm, team in my studio because I had the experience with my father to deal with a lot of people at the time doing interior design, and I didn't like it. I like to be sometimes even alone with myself and dedicate my time to what I am doing and not uh, doing like director of a big team. So, but because I was teaching for so many years, I like also to make work with a big team, but only in certain moments. So when we are, for example, developing a project and we have different scales of projects. Sometimes you are doing only a house, and sometimes I am only with my wife working on it. But we do also some other projects, big projects, and at that time we need to have a big team. But what I like is that there are people that are not depending from me, and we make our meetings, and sometimes these meetings they are in some certain way very near the work I was doing with my students. And these meetings, in the end, everyone is with his own competence doing something for the project. Of course, I'm leading the project, but they contribute to the work that we are doing. So I want to stay like that with a small team, but when I need, I get all the team outside. So, and I can answer to sometimes big issues, big projects, even if I don't have the capacity inside my studio. So this is what I like, and I can say that as we are here talking also with our master Caesar here behind us, is important to say that when I visit for my first time the studio of Álvaro Siza, I thought it was a big studio with a lot of people, but I was very surprised because when I arrived, it was only 3 people, and I asked him, "Where are the other people?" No, I don't have. No, these are the only ones I have. So at that moment, I thought that I was right because he was with a very small team, but of course doing big things with other people. At the time was working with Castanheira, and Castanheira was with a big studio with a lot of people, but in his studio was only 4 people. And this is too important because probably made him free.
That's a lovely a lovely memory to have about your experience with CISA. And I think it also illuminates this idea of collaboration that Claudia, you were alluding to. Tell me something. You're a specialist with BIM, and is BIM building information modeling or building information management? What exactly is BIM, and does it enhance collaboration among people? And if so, how?
Yes. It's a good question because we talk a lot of BIM specifically being modeling and this focus on the model and the product. But BIM is all about management, it's all about information. So you're correct, building information management, it's also something that it's very common nowadays because we are getting towards this idea of integration and managing information between all the teams. And when you talk about implementation of these new ways of working, it's much easier to implement on smaller offices. And because they are more agile, they are more receptive also for new ways of working than rather than offices or companies that are really big and that are with processes that are very difficult to change and adapt to different ways of doing. So when someone asks me what's the way of doing it, I should say start small, specialize in something that you are really good. If you are a great architect, stay true to that and get teams that are specialized in other things related with those specialities and work together. And it's the way to success.
So if someone is using BIM, then I understand that many people can access the information at any time. So it's not so linear where an architect starts an idea and then maybe down the road brings in the structural engineer,
Mhm.
then maybe speaks with the geographer or someone else, but the information is more transparent. Is that correct?
Yes, and also it's about the right information to the right people at the right time. So the architects have an important role because we are the masters. We coordinate and we have these ideas, but at an early stage, there are integrated other roles that help shape a virtual model because we are anticipating this construction so that we can think of errors, things that could happen in construction, and we are anticipating that.
Mhm.
So everyone is at an initial stage, but the architect still's the the master.
Okay. And Nuno, we were speaking a little bit before, and I remember, Claudia, you said you talked about the special nature of architecture. It has to give something special. Do you see that in the work of Álvaro Siza? And maybe what was special that he contributed to the projects, apart from the process, which you mentioned he had a small office but collaborated with others? What else would you identify as special in his work?
I think what I identify is a little bit what we know also about him is all the time drawing and the thoughts that he's having in the moment. And I always remember once I was with him in the Chiado and he was talking with me and he was all the time drawing and I thought he was not listening what I was saying. But in the end, he was listening everything. But it is like all the time. It's normal that we have thoughts even when we are speaking. Sometimes we are hearing something, and we are having at the same time thoughts. But what he does, I think it is important because he draw his thoughts, and so he's all the time doing that. And I think it is in that moment that everything starts. It is like a writer that is writing his thoughts and maybe to do a book or not, but he's all the time writing. He's all the time drawing, and this is too important. I don't feel that every architect need to draw very well, but he must know how to understand what he sees, and even before they work with a very good technology that can like BIM or other technologies that can give the capacity to do what he's thinking, it is a moment that you need to think and do a primary um, way of transmitting what you are thinking. And I think that way of Álvaro Siza does to draw everything. It is what is important. Myself, I always try, even if sometimes I don't have time. It's happening all the time. So sometimes I remember when I was beginning and we were not using computers. And in the first projects I have done, everyone was looking what I was drawing. Now it's like most of the customers, they don't care about it. And no, show me the 3D, show me the renders. They don't want to see the sketches, but it's incredible because in the end, sometimes I show some sketches that we do in the beginning, and they like to see and they like to understand that in that moment was the first idea. And they feel in that moment that how important is it. So I think this is something that we know. Everyone knows that Alvarez is a master of drawing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Can I add something on this?
Absolutely, Claudia.
Yeah, because in my experience as a trainer in this BIM methodology, sometimes my students they ask me, "Is this going to substitute the drawing?" I'm afraid of that because our culture is very related with drawing, and we now see all this technology and the modeling, and sometimes when we are initiating this transition, we feel that it's a barrier to our expression using this kind of softwares. But in the end, it's something complementary. It's not going to substitute, it's something to enhance and be more efficient in some areas and to integrate with other disciplines, as I was saying, but it's not going to affect that way of expressing and designing. So don't be afraid of that. We are not going to substitute. It's something to complement.
Yeah. That allows me to ask some more questions about education. And CISA has said that education is more than technique, but it's a way of learning to see. And so I'm not, so in that, how do you teach your students to see, you as a professor?
Yes, we have to give him tools to be like critic also, because I think nowadays that's very difficult to have a critic opinion or to have something to say about it when everything is so exposed and so out there, and everyone has almost the same opinion. I think we have to give these tools for someone just to be a little more critic and to think about something for him or her about some topic. So it's more like bringing this critical sense and not only just saying that, okay, it's everything the same and it's all good.
Yeah. No, especially because if you speak with a critical mindset, then you have to analyze, you have to look, you have to argument those things. Um, and 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 you mentioned that about drawing is important and the example of Caesar, but maybe the drawing in and of itself is not the only thing. What do you teach your students? Or what do they teach you, perhaps?
I was professor of history and theory of architecture and design.
Okay.
So I was an enthusiastic about history, just just from the beginning when I was a kid, and I always like to read books and history. And I was very enthusiastic also about what I was doing in university because In fact, I like books and I like to read, to learn. So I remember when I saw the documentary of Caesar was when he said that someone, I think it was Tavra, gave to him some I don't remember if it was Tavra, but they receive some books, and was Arquiteto dos Dui, I think, with Álvaro, and he said it was something that was too important to him to learn how what were other architects doing in the world, and he learned a lot with these books, and I think this is too important. I always remember my first job, and it was with an artist in Italy. It was Marcello Morandini. He's a constructivist. He's a very famous artist in Italy, and the first job he gave me was to organize the library. And when I returned to my father and my mother, I was just in the beginning. They said, "But he didn't give you something more important." No, it was too important because you can't imagine the books he have in the library. So it was a big opportunity to read and to learn with those books. This was, I was always saying this to my students in university, because it is important, of course, to draw, but it's important also to read and to know the history, what the big masters have done. Even if you have the opportunity to visit personally what they have done, is too important. Can you imagine that I was teaching for so many years and I didn't have the opportunity to see live Villa Rotunda of one of the most important constructions in the world, and I visit only 3 months ago in Italy, in Vicenza.
Yeah.
And it's something I had the opportunity to visit so many important buildings, but it was so important because I knew it everything from the books. But it's amazing when you visit and you feel in the space, and this is incredible because when you read books and you have imagination, you can create. And when you go to the place, you have another perception of the scale, of the size, and you can understand how architectural is, because it's not only a volume, is you can get inside and feel the space. But the book, if you have imagination, can give all of that information.
And Nuno, I like to think that history, and especially the history of architecture, is a living subject. And yes, it gives us a lot of information and points of view, but also we can incorporate our own point of view. And it sounds like you did that when you went to the Villa Rotunda, that after all these years, it sounds to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that maybe the scale, the size, the materials, although you had read a lot, was it somehow different than what you imagined?
It's
Or
completely different. It was the same that I felt when, 25 years ago, when I visited the Parthenon, because I was reading the books and I thought it was much bigger. And when we arrived, it is big, but it was not so big as I thought. Even when I was in Egypt, the pyramids, I thought it were much bigger than it was. It depends how you uh, conceptualize your idea about what you are reading. So it is true. It's important to read and to understand the things, but when you see it live, it is completely different. The scale, the size, everything is different. I think it is one of the things that I think it is important when students uh, understand and they know what have been done and they discover in the books, is because each work is have the capacity to be rebuild it, and you can make also a continuation. Alvarado said that building is not in the end. It's like waiting for someone that can make a continuity. He wrote this. And I remember when I visited one of the last work he have done in Italy, in Alpinini. It is a church, beautiful church. It was one of the best. It's not too big construction. And he said that it is possible about that church, that another architect can come and make a continuation of my work, because it's not a end work.
Right. And Claudia, how do you combine tradition and innovation, or how can you balance them? And how would you explain this to your students, for example?
I was listening to Nuno, and I saw something that sometimes I like that in my students, that sparkling eyes talking about the spaces, the architecture, the books that we saw, and sometimes I see it's more difficult on this generation to have these sparkling eyes, this enthusiasm about architecture. And I feel that sometimes it's because at universities we have great architects and teachers, but they still do the same as they done like 20 years ago. And times are evolving and changing, and they must adapt to that. And I think students get a little sometimes lost in the middle because they see ahead future offices or places that they would like to collaborate and do things that they don't learn at universities. That sometimes gets a little difficult for this. We are in transition time, so it's difficult for the ones who have done it and do it very well until now, and someone that is looking to the future and trying to fit in these new ways of doing. And this middle space, it's challenging, I guess, for this new generation.
And it sounds like it could be especially challenging for you because you are in engineering school and you're looking at technology. So, how do you approach that with your students? Can creativity and technology coincide? Can tradition and innovation coincide?
Yeah, they coincide, and they must actually. We have to look to the past and learn the lessons and everything that was done, and incorporate it and new ways of working. It's this balance that it's really rich. And what I say to my students is start small. Try little projects, but in a new way of doing things, but always try to explore and look to the past to incorporate in this new way of doing.
Do you use technology in your office?
Yes,
Nuno?
yes. We try to be always updated. We don't have a BIM yet, but we are studying to introduce, of course, like other studios. But we are always looking to that. I was all my life an enthusiastic about books, but I was also enthusiastic about technology since I was a kid. With just in the beginning, I have 57 years old, so it was the Spectrum, was the computer of the time when I was a kid, and I was very enthusiastic about it. So I am always looking for technology to help me to do my work, and I I am not a fundamentalist in the sense that sometimes we think that it can take our jobs, or it can make the job from that we are doing. I'm not afraid about that. I think that technology doesn't go by himself. So we need to use this technology and to say where this technology can go. So I think it is too important to be with the technology, to design with technology, and to know how we can use it. But it's true that students, and I felt that when I was teaching, sometimes they think that technology can do everything. And they don't use their own mind. They are waiting for ChatGPT to do something for them, and
It's true.
they don't think how it can be done. And I think this is a mission for professors now, to know how to teach them to think and to make their own thoughts besides the technology. And don't, like I was reading that now some young kids are using ChatGPT like a psychologist and this kind of things. So it is impossible to think about that, the technology is like that. So I think it is important to know how to deal with technology.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. And I was remembering a story that I can share with you because I thought it was really eye-opening regarding these times that we are crossing now of transition and resistance, because there are not only architects but professionals of the construction industry that are really resistant to change. And I was at this meeting. We were debating some themes about not only technology but the future of construction. And I was representing Building Smart. There is an international association. And someone was telling and were saying that BIM is not the solution for everything. And I agree. It's part of the solution. It's not going to be the solution for everything. Of course, it's going to help, but it's not the solution. And an architect that was besides me was saying that, oh, the pyramids of Egypt was not made with BIM. And I was, of course not. Otherwise, we came by horse today. So things evolve. Things in technology is there to help us. But of course, the Egypt pyramids were not made with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I think the idea of technology as a help is something that is a natural extension of architectural thought. Um, I'm also feel that I'm an outsider, but I've always respected architects who have been able to process lots of information from very different sources. And when we look at Álvaro Siza, it's amazing. He did it a lot through drawing, through observation, through speaking, through art, and the ways he gathered lots of information about a place, about the clients, about the mission of the building. And then he sort of put himself into it to try to understand how to approach that. Well, nowadays it seems to understand the wind or the temperature or the rainfall we may have or the trees on a site or the traffic. We can use technology to process some of that information. But in the end, I always thought the great value of architecture is taking all of this information and then coming up with something new and creative. And Nuna, I wanted to ask you, is this creativity or sensibility something that you seek in your projects, or how do the poetics of the work come through?
I think it is that moment, the first moment we think about the what we are going to do, to have an idea that we are always answer to a problem, because our customer is always the problem, and we need to do an answer to that problem, and to think how we can do. I always try to do something that can contribute to what is he needs. It is my first thoughts are always like about that, to get an answer for that problem. And I think that the concept is too important, to have a concept, something that can make our idea strong, because clients, most of them, they destroy our ideas. They don't want to do it, but in the end, they destroy because they want something like they have seen in the Pinterest. They have in someone told him something that he wants to do also in his house or his project. And if you don't have this concept from the beginning, that is built with a is very strong idea, uh, you can't have your idea materialize in a project, a good project, because he will do that not because he wants, of course, but customers, they want everything like they thought from the beginning, because when they arrive they need the architect, but they have already all the ideas for the process. It's like they have the ideas, but they can't conceptualize the idea, and they need the architect to do. But if you have a strong idea, because you have a strong concept, you can succeed in the end. And if it is not, you will destroy your idea, and in the end will be something that will be not nice, or you will not like it.
How do you feel about that, Cláudia?
The question is that not only with architecture, but with other professions too, but people think that because of the access of the information, and it's very easy to access information, to go to Pinterest or other platforms, everybody feel a little bit of an architect. And that crosses with this communication and information that is needed to society in general. What is the role of an architect? What do we do that is so special that you or someone else that is not an architect, why they need us as a professional? And sometimes people don't value that and think that it's something that is necessary to his building or to get a license for a construction, something that I need to take off the way. And that's really sad to know that. But there were people that told me this. Oh, it's something that I need. It's a signature to get into and to get license of my building. So that's really sad. We are much more than that.
I think that Álvaro Siza was always much more than that, and maybe there's a lesson we can learn from him. If you had to tell people what the essence of an architect is, and thinking a little bit about Álvaro Siza, what do you think? What do you think was the essence of his architecture that maybe we could convince people nowadays to go to other architects and to be able to achieve or obtain something as special as what Álvaro reflects?
Mhm. The difference is that we look at a place with a special look, and we design for that place, and gathering all the requirements that are needed, the wishes of the ones that are getting that problem, as you said, or a challenge, as we can say so. But we design thinking about the way that is going to impact the living of that space, and the importance of that space. And also, when I think about Álvaro Siza, I think about the way he acted local but with a global impact. And that's very special, I think, for all the Portuguese architects, that he make this global statement of an excellence in architecture, looking to this local point of view, but with a global impact. That's
Mm.
interesting.
Thank you. And Nuno, this idea that Álvaro Siza opened Portuguese architecture to the world, and maybe the world to Portuguese architects. Did you experience that in your own career, and how would you see that comment?
Yeah, I remember when I went to Italy to study industrial design, because I made architecture in Portugal, and after I was in 93 and 94 in Italy, in Milan. And most of the students, they knew the work of Álvaro Siza. It was for me the same that probably now in the football, Ronaldo, that is known everywhere, and they know Portugal from Ronaldo. At the time, in the architecture students, they knew probably most of them, they never came to Portugal at the time, but they knew it, who was Álvaro Siza and his work. So it was I was very surprising, because I discovered, I knew it that he was doing work out in Holland when I was studying, and at the time, but I didn't know that was so important, you know. And in fact, I myself, I was curious about his work, and I traveled to Berlin to see Bonjour Tristesse, and it was nice to understand the building and the history of and everything that he wrote about it and he said about it. And but most of the students I found in the Politecnico Milano, they knew it, who was Álvaro Siza and his work. And in fact, when I was designing something, they were all the time saying, "Professors, you are doing like Álvaro Siza," because it was minimalism and the way they were drawing. They would say, "This is a drawing like Álvaro Siza," because they had this idea about that everything in Portugal was Álvaro Siza, no? Or we were all making something like Álvaro Siza, and it was like that. When I was studying in Lisbon, Álvaro Siza was not so important as it was in the north of Portugal, because it was at the time Tomás Taveira was a postmodern architect, and it was making a lot of work at the time, and he was in certain type blocking, not himself, but a lot of people blocking, because Lisbon was at the time too postmodern. It was the opposite work as it was doing Álvaro Siza and the architects in the Porto school. So it was surprising, because when I traveled to Italy, I came from Lisbon, where most of the professors were a little bit postmodern, and more like Aldo Rossi, Roberto Venturi, and the micrograves, and these were the architects that they were teaching in Lisbon. So it was a little bit different. So for me, it was surprising, because maybe I discovered who was Álvaro Siza more in Italy than in Portugal.
That happens sometimes, doesn't it?
Yes, and I felt the same in Madrid when I was studying there. There was this knowledge of the work that sometimes here in Portugal we don't give that value. Sometimes we need to go to the outside to see with those eyes. So it's very special.
Yeah. It's interesting because you mentioned that architects or clients, when they come to you, they sort of know what they want. And you talked about a critical mindset that goes beyond simply the functional, but sees things. So, if the architecture is a profession that can imagine a future that has not been, um, where do you see the profession in the future going? Can we still maintain that idea of innovation with poetics, of imagining a new future, and perhaps learning something from the legacy and the work and ideas, drawings, thoughts of Álvaro Siza? So, where are we going with architecture?
Yeah. We live at challenging times, I guess, for architects. We deal with this speed up times. We have little time to dedicate to projects, and we also see that architects have low remunerations, and sometimes they don't feel very valuable, and that's difficult times for our profession. But I think there's an opportunity, not only with technology, but times that are heading to our profession to become more like this role that were in the past, with this social impact that we can bring to society. So I think we still need to do this, always looking to our legacy, but adapting to transformation times.
Thank you. And your clients, have they changed in their wants? And do you see them asking for this creativity and poetics in the future? And how can you convince them?
Unfortunately, most of the customers I have now, they are not looking so much for this poetry. They don't like. I think that they are not looking, but when they see it, they like and they understand. And for example, in my case, some of my customers are the same for so many years because they like the way that I do the things. They like this poetry that I do, and the way that I like to design. And I so many times I call them and I maybe say some kind of things that I am thinking about it, and I don't do my job like a company because we see that there are a lot of studios now. They are like companies, and probably they will speak with an architect one day, with another architect with another day. Maybe they will have lunch with the owner of the studio, and so they don't have this relation like they have with in my studio, that they talk with me directly, they speak with me directly. And so when I'm developing the project, I give my thoughts to them, what I am doing, what I am thinking. And so many times I do maybe a sketch and I give, maybe we can go this way, but they don't understand the sketch, and so they want to understand, so I will explain. But I see that in the end, even if they, the first time, they were not so interested about it, in the end, they like and they understand the difference. So I think it is important that we stay, even if we have big studios, to stay in this way, to see that even in these customers that maybe they are nervous in the beginning, they are looking only to the money and the time that the project will take, every single that. But we must believe that in the end they will understand how important it is, the conceptual part of the project and the process, and not only the result. I think this is too important. I always remember a teacher was too important to me in Italy, and he said to me that at the time he was teaching design, not architecture, and he said, "Don't look to the end, look to the process. Design is a process, is not the result. After we will see, engineers will see how a chair can be nice, smooth, everything, but the concept is the most important part of design."
Yeah. It's similar to what you were saying, isn't it, Claudia, that architecture is a process?
Yes, is a process that, and this idea of integrating everyone is, I think, the message that I would like to get across. That everybody together we can get something special in the end.
Something very special. And if Caesar's legacy shows us that rigor, as you mentioned, that every detail is cared for, the height of the carpet, as well as a big building, that being rigorous, but sensibility and being very sensitive to the context, to the client, to the concept. They don't belong to a particular time, but to an attitude. And I think both of you have shown that in your own work, this precision along with sensitivity, they go hand in hand. Um, what would you recommend to young people in the future to maintain that idea of rigor and sensibility? And how would you encourage them to find that in architecture?
Yes. Find your own way of expressing yourself. It can be drawing, it can be 3D modeling, it can be other ways of expressing your essence. And but don't forget this important role in the society that we have.
I maybe because I was a teacher, I always recommend read a good book, even if it is digital one. You doesn't need to have the traditional book. It can be a digital one. It can be a nice um, report about an architect, or someone that have done a good work, or a work that I might like. And for me, this what is important, because this is what I am unfortunately seeing, this we are losing. people, they are not caring too much about it because they don't have time, because they are looking to so many things, and the day is still 24 hours and we need to sleep, and they don't have time to to be to read and to understand and to criticize what they are reading, and this is too important. So what I can say to this young generation is don't lose this, because this is too important to do a good job.
I want to thank you, Claudia and Nuno. I've learned so much from you today about having a critical spirit, about looking, about combining tradition and innovation, about not being afraid. If you're small, you can be agile and try new things, about showing people through examples and your examples in teaching and work, that there's so much more to architecture than just the final product, but it's the process that's important. And that all brings me back to Álvaro Siza. And what an example, because for him, the process of all these years, and he continues to be in that process of discovery, of curiosity, of drawing day and night. And when he's talking to you, and we continue that process of learning. And I hope that's something that we can share with future generations to follow, not directly in his footsteps, but to keep the essence of that great Portuguese master in their heart and soul as they produce our built environment for the future. Thank you so much,
Thank you
Nuno.
very much.
Thank you, Claudia.
Thank
Very much.